I don't care.
Yeah, it's always fun that way to just kind of share. And we'll try to get other people. I did put some posts on the Telegram just to see if anybody else wants to join us. You know, it's the holidays, so it's pretty slow, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
but it'd be good to catch up with you. I haven't spoken to you since maybe at least a few weeks now. So, and
Yeah,
you're in Helsinki, you're saying?
at the moment, yeah, I'm going back to Forza, my hometown, tomorrow, and I had two week vacation in Malta, and yeah, well, this is like traveling for both you and me. Blockchain world is like that.
Yeah. How was Malta? Just I'm curious, like the latest. That was probably a little bit, what, a couple weeks ago or a week ago?
Mm. Yeah. Well, it's really interesting crypto wise because the crypto regulation and laws hopefully will be saneful over there, and climate is nice for a Finn, and yeah, it's really interesting small country, and English is the official language. One there are two, Maltese and English, but English is governmental, so that's good for cryptocurrency entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's great. How's it going, Mel?
Hey.
So yeah, so that's great. So a lot of and what did you get out of the 2 weeks in Malta? Kind of what were your objectives coming in? And I know there were a lot of conferences. And what do you after this trip to Malta? What are you looking at right now? What's the
Uh,
plan? I guess.
Apartment.
Oh wow, you're gonna move.
I have plans. Yeah, I don't know yet when those will materialize, but that was the reason why I choose Malta for my holiday trip, and I spent 2 weeks going around the island and looking kind of different neighborhoods and so on. It was a really interesting trip, and I learned a lot how the different neighborhoods and municipalities there are local councils which work like municipalities. So it's a country of 500,000 people, and the size is less than 500 square kilometers. Uh, so it's small place in terms of area and population, but it still has kind of municipalities and also regions, which is the middle level from governmental municipalities, and in the middle level there is regions. So that's also weird how complicated so small government can be.
Oh yeah, many layers. It seems we have something similar here, but we have large. I mean, it's California is huge, so that's interesting. So multi. So how does that? Just curious about how you. Is there a blockchain community, and is this like what kind of? I know you could get citizenship for Malta if you purchase it, right? Or isn't that part of? Isn't that well, like?
Oh, That, that's true, but because we live also in a federation like you guys, but no one really talks about it. But because I'm an EU citizen as a Finn, uh, I can roam freely inside EU. So I don't need to get multi citizenship. Wouldn't do much for me. That would be counter intuitive because uh, as a Maltese citizen, you have to pay more taxes as a non-Maltese citizen in Malta. Um, but as a EU citizen, I can use the healthcare. I can live anywhere. I don't need any visas, paperwork, anything. So EU works a lot like a federation, but people don't talk about it as a federation, but it works a lot like a federation does.
Okay, so
And
that makes sense.
we also use the same money.
You also what money?
We use the same money also,
Oh,
euros,
okay, yeah, the
in
euros. Okay.
Finland and Malta. So
Yeah.
when I take a direct flight from Helsinki to Valletta, Malta, I don't need to show passports because of Schengen and EU. I don't need to exchange money because of euros. I don't need to get another cell phone SIM card because of EU. I can use the data roaming almost like in Finland. So as soon as I get out of the plane, I have Facebook, WhatsApp, everything like that, just like that. So being a federation has good points.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of people from outside Europe probably want to get multi-citizenship, I guess. But if you're in Europe, it doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
all right, sounds good. So what should we discuss about in terms of governance? Have you been following lately? And I don't know if anybody in the audience wants to maybe throw a topic out there that we can discuss, because referendums coming up, the constitutions are going to be voted on eventually, and I think there's some debate about should we have an interim constitution because it's going to take some time. Maybe put in a couple to vote early on, and then because there's so many versions of the Constitution, it's hard to get all of them. Are all the constitutions just going to be out there for people to vote on immediately? I mean, and I think Justin's here too, so maybe he can also clarify that. But what have you been following, Ville? And if anyone's out there in the audience, what are their thoughts about kind of the upcoming referendums? So.
Yeah, well, I think I fell in love with New York's proposal number 2 because it's I try to find a link because it's simple. It at least looks like it's done by a lawyer, and let's see, EOS New York. I think they used the word user agreement.
Yeah, they did. So we covered it. A funny thing is we covered that a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
We covered half of it. I think Thomas was there, and we covered half of it. We were going to cover the rest of it, but if we have time, we could probably cover the second half again. And Ville has put that on the chat panel on the side, so we can. I'll pull it up as well. So, and that's probably the latest one. So we have a question that just came up, so we can just maybe get to that as well. So yeah, so New York agreement is great. It seems to be popular. John from Boyd says mainnet maximalism, one chain per DApp. So that's another interesting question. Are we going to see a future where there's a lot of dApps that are using the mainnet and interacting? What are the pros and cons of that? Or do we see one chain per dApp? And I'm starting to think more and more that we're going to see one chain per dApp, that there's going to be, especially if we get interoperability. I don't know exactly how it'll look like, whether it's going to be like a side chain where there's some way that these communicate, and I don't know what that does to governance as well. So maybe we can discuss that topic because that's on my mind too. So.
Yeah. I started as a blog producer on TLOS recently. I have the blog producer with my co-owner, co-founder. so there are two of us, and we are now BP on Telos, and I think that there will be a lot of side chains or sister chains or whatever word we should use for EOS IO chains. And also there will be the BIOS or BOS. That's the word. So BOS, which is quite recent. I think it surfaced this week.
Oh, I didn't know this. Okay, and what's the high level summary of BOSS? I like the name. That's actually a good short name.
Yeah, it's business operating system, and they what they officially tell is that they are just like business oriented version of EOS.io blockchain. But what it looks to me is a rebel group of quite prominent BPs who just jumped here, because if we open the BIOS homepage or BOS homepage, we can see the let's see, I can't find it at the moment.
Can you give us a link if because I know this is pretty new, right? So if you could have a link to the announcement or anything where we can read about this new system. I'm kind of curious. And which BPs jumped onto this?
Oh yeah, I will check the Telegram if I find from the topic Boss Core.
Boss Core. Oh, so Philip, thank you. He gave us the link.
Oh, thank you.
So it's a okay. So it shows up in Chinese first. The goal of Boss business operating system is to build EOS.io that supports more dApps and combines more real world needs with blockchains. From the perspective of the evolution of the blockchain, in addition to being the preferred base chain of dApps, BOSS can also serve as a circulation chain for various heterogeneous chain certifications and as a free port in the blockchain world. Not sure if the translation's coming through the best way, but so it's a way, if you see the picture, and let me maybe share my screen, it's just it shows probably interoperability between other chains as big like Bitcoin and Ethereum, because that's what's in the picture. So if you see, you know, this middle boss with the 3 circles and then all the other ones, but this is pretty much the boss chain. So it's you know, a project out of China, and it probably focuses on interoperability, it seems, and dApps as well. So
I wonder how they are going to do the interoperability part of it. But when you scroll down, you will see the BPs, and there are quite prominent ones. So to me, I have been following the chat for a couple of days, and to me it seems like few BBs has got enough, and then they are like, well, let's have a new chain. But I'm not sure, because it's not official. There is nothing like news release on this, like Rebel BB set a new network, nothing like that. But to me it looks like a Rebel network.
It's interesting too, because the prominent ones, you know, the top 21 in EOS is, you know, like I think a lot of these, you know, EOS DAC, EOS 42, EOS Nation, EOS Rio, just a lot of, and then in Asia, there's the big Asia ones, EOS Store, Stardios, Asia, Meet One. Yeah, so it does seem like they have quite a bit of, I think even the exchange ones, right? The exchange, the Huobi, I don't know which ones. I don't follow it too closely. Even HKEO. So Anyway, so yeah, very interesting. You're right. There is a pretty prominent BPs supporting this, and we'll see. So that's there's multiple kind of mainnet type chains. So that's another mainnet type chain. So we have Telos, we have, and I call it Telos, but Telos or Telos, and
I think it's also for a Finn. It's also Telos, but I thought that people want to have it more smoothly. But for me, it's also Telos. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. So, and then we got Boss now. So I think those are more base layer chains. And we should probably go back to governance eventually, but these are base layer chains. I wonder what governance they're going to have on those. So I think it's great because you could experiment with different governance systems on those chains. But so now those are more like Telos, EOS, Boss. They're going to be more like mainnet. They're going to try to attract dApps. I'm starting to think that you're going to have, like, Everpedia now has its own chain, right? They're planning on it, right? So this is more like a dApp chain where it's use case specific, and they're going to have, I think, there's going to be more and more of those. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to manage when you do that, but I think that's going to be the trend, where if there's interoperability, you're going to have these dApp chains that also interoperate with all the other ones. Anyways, it's more efficient. I think there's advantages that way. You can capture more value, especially if you're bringing in users to the network. So it makes sense to decentralize that way as well. Just if you're a dApp chain and you can handle the infrastructure, you may not even need as many nodes. You could start with 2 or 3 nodes and then expand out as you get bigger. And if you're never successful, you don't really have to, you don't have to expand that much, and you could just shut down, eventually. So, but anyways, I think that might be something to look into. Looks like BOS is using V2 from block 1. So they've already decided on version 2 of the block for the Constitution. And, it's a wrong link. This is their worker proposal. Okay, but so Justin, are they using version 2? You gave a different link, but or maybe you can just verify if they're using version 2 of the Constitution. And it'll be interesting. So this is the interesting thing. So speaking of Telos, they have more of a version 1 Constitution, right? There is, like, they have something like ECAF, but it's elected, which is, I think, better. But anyways, they have an arbitration that is elected, arbitrators that are elected, and they have an opt-in program. So I think it's easier for Telos to do this, because EOS started without this any kind of idea of, like, what ownership was and what an agreement between a user and the platform was. But with Telos, I think it's slightly easier, because to claim your tokens, you actually have to opt in. Right.
And sorry, one big difference is that Delos is using a foundation, so they have a structure from day one.
Okay, so the foundation is the so let me ask this then. As a foundation, are they the counterparty to this agreement?
Oh, no. They will provide. By the way, I'm not sure, but I think that the user agreement is just like between users, and I think that the Telos Foundation will provide a structure to develop the blockchain and the governance. So basically, the governance is just built on top of a traditional foundation structure in a way. It's not traditional in a way that you can get elected by blockchain vote. So it's modern, but it still has this legal structure which is traditional. You have board and stuff.
Yeah, I think you do get elected on the blockchain, though. I did see the vote for the foundation members on there. So it's interesting. So So they have a foundation which is different than EOS. They have an opt-in system which is different. They do have some more even legal. They cover torts and things that are typically found in more outside of contract law. So it's kind of interesting how they potentially can be more expansive in terms of what kind of dispute resolution they cover. I think it's actually a good experiment for those that actually want base layer arbitration. I think Telos is actually pretty good for that. It's a pretty decent design. I still think there's going to be problems with scalability with dispute resolution in general. So there's going to be an issue in key recovery. Like those disputes are going to still also be a challenge for Telos. But I think if people like base layer arbitration, Telos is actually a good alternative. Now, I prefer more no base layer arbitration, but these are all experiments, so who knows what's going to work. So anyways, so that's kind of my comments. I think Telos is one. So I feel like it's better for EOS to just stick with something similar version 2, whether it's the New York agreement or version 2 or a variation of that. And the if people want to experiment, Telos is one to look at. And then Boss is something else, which is more version 2. And I don't know how it differs from EOS, but we'll see. So that's interesting. So let's see. Mel he said, I think we should have a vote on a few of the most important constitutional agreements as a bare bones, then flesh it up over time. So maybe start with something like simple and then build it up over time. I think that's a decent approach. I kind of have a feeling people are just, they have limited attention span is my concern, where like you're going to have a decrease of, after the first one, there's going to be a decrease of people that are interested in adding or changing the Constitution.
But then we have a case example of a country who had just a paper and then decided to have amendments, and now they are still fighting. Can everyone get married or not? so
which one is this? Or
US.
Oh, US. Okay. Well, at least the US had a they had the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I mean, that was quickly done right after, and there hasn't been that many amendments, in the past, decade, and it's very rare to have any amendments these days. So,
and I don't. I'm not saying that the amendment approach is bad one. I just noticed that the idea of having first the basic paper and then doing modifications later is really similar to the US approach. And then, it's one way.
Yeah, and usually the states have referendum. And the U.S. for the federal level, there's no referendums done, but it's at the state level that you see a lot of these debates about referendums. I think the California I think the California Constitution is mainly. I'll have to see where the referendums. I know the cities do that a lot, where it's a lot of referendums, and then I think that at the state level there's referendum. I'm pretty bad at kind of local politics, I guess, but because I just don't pay attention as much as I used to.
In Finland, we don't have referendums per se, but we have for governmental levels and municipality levels, we have this initiative act, which means that when everyone can set up an initiative, and when it reaches a certain amount of supporters, then the governmental party, is that municipality or the actual government, has to handle that somehow. So it's not referendum, but you can set up law changes personally if you get enough supporters.
That's interesting. So it's a initiative to start the process for some new regulation or law, but it's not like it doesn't become officially the law by.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and
yeah.
and it's quite new, like it's 10 years old or something like that, and we already see a very wide variation of the initiatives that people have there. You have initiatives which have been prepared by Greenpeace or some other high-profile organization with lawyers, which is basically a full law, and then you have some angry Finn who is like all immigrants out enter, and then there is not much law. But then there are this uh, some people fall in the middle. They have decent ideas, but they still are not lawyers, and it's still like a lot of text, but not codified or codified. So it's not really legal text, but they still tell like, I would like to have this because I think that this doesn't work and this doesn't work and it should be fixed like this. so so yeah, it's very interesting. Unfortunately, those are only in Finnish, so I can't really share those. But it's quite interesting to see uh, how it works when everyone can propose a law.
Yeah, and this is pretty much the way our EOS system is going to work with the referendum proposals. And Justin, I don't know who's familiar with the ballot proposal process, but there's a ballot crafters Telegram group that should have some information about how people are able to create good proposals, or because you're going to have this same kind of issue where people just have these simple kind of things or some very drawn out legal document versus something in between, and how that's going to look when it comes to voting, what the experience is going to be like. We'll see, and I'm sure that people are working on good ways to help people draft proposals. So that's great that they do something similar to that. And then there's also the other thing, which I think there's working on the final draft from Ballot Crafters. So it's we'll put the link. It's the links on the side, but we'll put it on video as well. So thanks, Justin. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the process. So let's maybe switch gears to okay, what version. So what is it, base layer arbitration or not? I thought that was going to be the big issue. How do we resolve this? To me, that's the biggest issue right now. At EOS Ignite, we did GovCon last week. There were about 35 people who voted. I wish I could have gotten more people to vote, but and then about 30, it was probably about 30, 35, 65, I think. Maybe I forget the breakdown, but people in favor they were about 35%, and then people against was roughly around 65 for base layer arbitration. But then regardless of that poll, how do we get to a point where we resolve this, where people, the constitutions that are presented, if we put it out all at once, it might dilute each other. So if you have like 7 versions of the Constitution, there might be 3 in favor of base layer arbitration, maybe 4 that aren't, but they all split votes. So it might get messy if you just put all the constitutions up at once. Maybe if you could just get 1 or 2 or 3, one with base layer, one or 2 with base layer, 1 without, or vice versa. How do you see that process going on, and what do we do?
I think that the current referendum code is quite simple. It wouldn't permit this, but what about rounds? Like first all the proposals are equal, then few of them will get round two, and then final, and then selected.
I like that process, and that's a good way to minimize kind of the split vote by having rounds. But yeah, you would have to do everything in a UI, and everyone would have to agree, and that's, I think, difficult, because in the code it's just, you have referendum, people can vote. So if you could display it that way, but then you're having too much control in the UI, I think, at that point, where you're dictating the process by right. So you want to kind of find a way so that the front end doesn't have that much influence on the process, because what if people don't agree with that? Like, you almost have to vote on the process first, right? Like, okay. So
the legendary comment, we need a referendum about the referendum.
exactly. It's a never ending, like, recursion. But so what is then the best way? Because I was thinking, like, recently someone, and John Chamberlain, in the V2 chat group, said, hey, let's just have an interim constitution, just do a V1 versus V2 and call it interim. And after that, you can propose, if it's closer to V2, then you could propose, and that wins, then you could propose variations of version 2, whether it's the New York agreement. We have the EOS San Francisco one that I'm part of. And then version, if the base layer arbitration wins, then you could do the other ones, like, the Amsterdam, the Korean, the Russian community. They're very similar. It's a variation of Amsterdam, and I think they're actually trying to get together and trying to converge on one constitution, actually. So it might make it easier, but rather than having them have to converge, I'm thinking just almost do a V1 or V2 versus V2, or V2 versus V3, and then just start with that, just to simplify things, and then people can choose sides at that point more easily.
Have you, by the way, published your constitution already?
We have, but it's very similar to the one we discussed earlier. So I think you've seen a version of that. We updated it. We're always happy to get more feedback, but it's essentially the same thing, a very limited version of the. It's a variation of version 2 with just the focus on explaining and limiting block producer power, and then just describing system parameters, and that's pretty much it. Those two, very minimalist in terms of what it's the objective of that and design principles are. So that's so anyway. So what do you guys think? I feel like I want to push that, and I'm wondering, like just version 2. I just feel like that's like a default. No one's been talking about that as much, but people kind of accepted it as a default version without a lot of debate, because I think there was a lot of support for it, I think. And so, but we could always eventually upgrade it if people, the constitution that wins is going to be hard to update in the future, because people might become complacent. But to me, it's okay, because version 2 versus either version 3, I don't know, version 1, it's either version 1 or version 3. Just pit it together one-on-one and just have people pick sides. I think that's just the simplest, the easiest, covers the most ground, and it doesn't confuse people.
But you have the same problem. Who will decide the hierarchy?
True, because people can always submit their own constitution and push it, right?
Yeah. So here is the same UI problem, that there must be some entity which decides the hierarchy. So that entity has the power to craft the election.
Maybe we shouldn't even have to. We could let everyone issue all the constitutions they want, but maybe it's more about promotions, because it's going to be based on the active participants promoting a particular version. So let all the constitutions be issued and just focus on like as a to be an activist in this, just focus on one that is, either, within a kind of an agreement within the community that supports like base layer or not base layer, that this is the one that they're going to push, and then let everyone issue whatever constitutions they want, and then just on top of it, just try to push and campaign for the ones that they prefer, right? So that way we're not limiting it with the UI. It'll just naturally float to the top, the ones that are being pushed by the communities, amongst the people that agree. And maybe there's some division sometimes where people want to push other ones, but I think we could get into a more of a consensus amongst the group of what to push. I think V2 is naturally going to be popular, and then probably some version of the Amsterdam is another one. So
yeah, Amsterdam that has also their own lawyer.
Yeah. So John asks a question, maybe since it makes sense that the tokens that vote in the top 21 BPs are going to be the most active referendum voters. So it's hard to imagine a referendum passing which is broadly disliked by top BPs. Sounds very difficult for contentious proposal to make much progress. Okay, so that's a great point. So a lot of the votes are going to be made by BPs, and those that are influenced by BPs, right? So and vote for the top BPs. So the BPs actually have a lot of power. The first question is, are BPs going to be political? Are they going to say, okay, hey, are we going to have this constitution and a bunch of BPs endorsing that version of the constitution? I think so, right? What do you think? Is it going to be like, hey, choose your side for this constitution?
Well, yeah, I agree that BPs probably have quite a lot of weight in this process, and I'm not sure is that a bad thing, because after all, we are the ones who vote the BPs. So in this case, it would be just a governmental process. We elect the people that we elect will make the laws. So I'm not sure is that a problem that BPs have the weight, because we give the weight. But I'm the normal hippie who likes law and order. So yeah, I'm biased.
Okay. So yeah. So it's interesting. So the people that are voting for the BPs, if a BP though is it takes a side because they're neutral, they're politically neutral right now. If they take a side, then they could possibly even lose their vote. So that's why people are careful about taking sides right now. Like, no, there's not a lot of politics going on with BPs. You can see it's very conservative. Like they don't take sides. And I think, but eventually they have to take sides, right? I think, and that's going to distinguish how the token holders really feel about the system. Like they're going to vote for the BPs, and they might lose votes. Like BPs might lose votes because they're on one side or the other. It'd be interesting. So.
Yeah, that will be because I have to admit I haven't thought BP's role in this voting process or the referendum process until John just bring it up. So yeah.
That's true. I mean, the BPs are really the main influencers in this entire system, I think, right? So they're I mean, that's where the community revolves around, all the BPs.
And John also had a point. I think it's important to clarify that tokens vote, not individuals. And I agree, but I think of course I agree because that's the fact. But I think that that's also intentional, because I think that EOS has always been like a company that you own shares of. When you own more shares than others, you get to decide. So I think that that's intentional.
Okay. Yeah, we got, and then Mel, we skipped some questions. Let's see. We need to build the Constitution up firstly, agree on the highest priority elements, getting that in place, then it can grow. So yeah, so that was kind of back to the original question about the Constitution being set up, and then with the highest priorities. If the chosen Constitution was approved on a split vote similar to Brexit, this could cause side chain separation similar to political parties. So yeah, I mean, we can always fork, like if the losing side of this important constitutional referendum can, if there's enough momentum, and it's not, if it's close, the vote is close, then we could probably see another another chain fork. That's always a potential outcome. So
Yeah. And I think that the split vote thing is always a possibility, because even with multiple equal constitution proposals, because let's think of 5 different proposals. One will eventually get elected. Then we have the 4 more which didn't get elected. So these people are probably not satisfied with the number 1. So we still have the situation that people are split. Some people like the 1, and some people would like to vote the 4 others. So I think that the split vote jeopardy exists also in every scenario.
Yeah, I agree. And if that happens, I just think, it's not good to split the community up so early, too soon. So I think you almost, and naturally it'll be hard to get the traction if you create a new ecosystem unless you get more than 20% of the vote. I think it doesn't make sense. Like if it's like 80-20 and you're part of the 20, then, but if you're like, you only have 5%, your proposal gets 5%, like a number of them get 5%, the rest get like 60, 70, 80, 90. It doesn't really make sense. If you can do it, but I just think at this point it's probably not healthy to have so many splits, different chains, just because of the differences in the about the Constitution. So
I also agree that it would be nice to have a constitution that everyone could build on. So more and more people would find EOS their home. That would be, of course, good.
Yeah. But the trend is towards decentralization. If we have interoperability, it's almost like the technology is rather the home rather than the actual branded chain, or this one chain. It's maybe just the technology that everyone is brought together with whatever is maybe different constitutions, different dApps, whatever. It's that might be one way to think about it as well. So it's not necessarily like this one mainnet. It's like this many chains that use the technology. John says, in the future, we might see vote weighted by some unique ID. People like that for democracy, I think, and that's fine. I think there's certain applications that works. I like stake weighted, just because I think even in public governance, I feel like if it was somehow people have more stake rather than it just being one person, one vote, that it actually be more efficient, because there's skin in the game. So I like the stake weighted systems, but I think identity is incredibly important regardless. You can use it for one person, one vote type situations, but It's just identity is going to be huge, just to prevent Sybil attacks mainly, I think.
Yeah, but identities are always hard in distributed systems because you need to have some authority to accept it. So you will have some central points in the distributed world. So ID is always a tricky one.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think it's solved though technologically though. I mean, you have biometrics, you have location-based ID, and web of trust. I mean, with the combination of those three things, I think you pretty much solve identity, a unique identity.
Oh, but you still have the problem of bridge from real world to blockchain. For example, if we think uh, uh, face features, for example, uh, of course I can write a program which will tell difference between you and me, uh, you and me, but uh, but it's hard to tell which one is telling the truth when it goes online, for example, on a blockchain. It must be sent by a program, and in that case, the program can feed whatever information, uh, because this is not anything that computer couldn't make up. So computer can easily fake and make these features, and when it reports them on chain, no one really knows is if that's a crafted program, if that's a real program, or if that's just me faking the information.
That's true too. But so yeah, that is interesting. But I think there's still solutions with web of trust and biometrics. Essentially, like you hash all the information about the biometrics. I think that's how Block One's wallet works. So whether it's a fingerprint or facial recognition, you hash that. That's unique. Then you have web of trust with all the people that do that, and you have some kind of location metric. Then all of those makes it very difficult for you to kind of create, all these Sybil accounts. So I think you can do that, but we'll see. I mean, I'm just like, this is all theoretical. So,
hopefully the wallet will be published soon. Oh, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully the wallet comes out soon. So, all right. So I think we probably got about 5 minutes. We'll probably end at the top of the hour here. But so yeah, in terms of governance, so what do you like user agreement too? Would you be opposed to having, let's say, hey, we'll be, yeah, hey John, we'll be here for a few minutes, but if you have to go, it's good talking to you, John. So
yep, thank you.
So yeah, so I guess it's interesting because people are going to start voting, and I feel like let's see what all the proposals are, and maybe just let's not try to maybe plan out, because we can't. If people want to issue or propose something, let everyone do that. But it's going to be a matter of the community coming and I think being active and pushing whatever version, and so and probably having agreements with each other to say focus on these, even if you like this constitution, is better to support this one at least in the beginning. So and start from there, because I do think really the base layer issue is going to be the biggest one. So we want to have like two versions of the best one, the base layer and non-base layer. And then after that, then you can always change it after that if you have enough momentum. So I feel that might be natural. We don't have to say, oh, this is the way we should do it. We don't have to talk about rounds, which is good, but we don't have to have agreement there. People can just say, all right, go ahead, just issue all the proposals you want, create it, everything, and then it's going to be up to the community to really push, right?
Well,
yeah.
Oh, well. We could set up when referendum contract is stable, like I suppose during the new year. then we could just set up a referendum, base layer or no base layer, and then campaign for it.
No, that was my original idea, but I have a feeling that's just too, people are impatient. They don't want to, it's going to take 30 days to do that. And then another 30 days to, like, it just takes time, right? Like, so it's a two-step process. People would just want to cut straight to the chase, I think. And they don't care.
No.
I think they don't care what version, like, so much that that is my guess. It's like, and we just call it maybe interim, like have a sunset clause and just say 6 months, whatever, so that people at least know our direction. If it's version 2, which is going to be popular regardless, I think that's, you know, and then version 3, if that's going to be popular, like, which is kind of what a large part of the people who are creating, who are in governance want, you know, I think we'll have a clear picture of where what the token holders want at that point. So,
but that would be the second interim contract, because this current one should have been the interim. So at least that was the plan upon the launch, that new constitution should be elected soon. So this current one is the temporary one, or at least it should have been.
Yeah. So okay. So it's okay. I mean, we could call it official constitution too. I mean, we can always update it later for whatever reason if there's enough kind of pressure to do it. But so yeah, just let everyone issue their constitution from the beginning of the year, or however soon they want, and then let people campaign for it. I think just make it a free for all, and just make it the official constitution when that happens. And I just have a feeling like the more I think about it, I think, you know, just me personally, I probably support version 2 at this point, just because it's to me what the people will be drawn to, and that I support. Like, ours is, you know, the San Francisco version, EOS San Francisco is version 2.1. So if later on we want to upgrade it, people can do that with another vote. But to me, it's version 2 is just what people will probably look to as a one of the main options. And then the other ones, you know, New York agreement is popular, but it's similar to version 2 in a lot of ways. It doesn't have base layer arbitration. I think that's the big key. So I rather focus on one that doesn't, and maybe upgrade it to a New York version after that. But anyway, so I think, you know, without managing the process so much, I think, I don't know, that's probably what I'll promote personally. But
yeah. I think that the simplicity of the New York proposal is quite nice. I think that it just handles the right amount. I will read your constitution again, because I don't remember the details at the moment. So I will check that also, because yeah, it have been some time since I have read that. So I will check it out.
Okay. No, thanks. Let me know if there's any comments you have on it. So, all right. So yeah, we'll see. We'll just keep working. I know it's Christmas next week. Maybe we'll have another session in between, because well, it's 27th, so it's yeah. So that might be a good time to do another session, and we're coming close to the referendum. So I'm kind of curious to see how everything shakes out. Funny to see all these new systems like Boss and now Telus just launched. So it's kind of interesting to see all that happening. Yeah, that's just maybe the nature of like the technology. I think it's okay. Maybe we should just accept the idea that, hey, there's going to be a lot of change. So so cool.
Innovation is good.
Yeah, innovation is good. So any last words, Ville?
No, thank you for having this once again, and let's discuss next time about the interesting governance themes.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, and have fun. When are you going to move to Malta?
Oh, I think early next year. I plan at least to do so. Let's see how it will turn out.
Yeah, and then what do you? So you mainly do blockchain development, right? Are you what projects are you working on today? Oh, you
Yeah.
mentioned it before, but if you can
Oh,
refresh us.
yeah. I'm working for token market. We are doing STO tokens, and then we have this small BP with a friend of mine called Crypto Suvi. I will put it here. So we have this BP, but for token markets, I have been doing like 1.5 years of smart contract development. We started with Ethereum, and we are now researching EOS, and we have an exchange, and we are now switching from ICOs to STOs. Yeah.
Okay, so no, that's interesting. So and this is great because I'm going to chat with you offline about this. But there's this article I wrote about the new kind of ICO, which I think maybe if you can give me an input, and if you also have legal lawyers, I wanted to get some input on this idea. It's called partnership ICOs. So
Okay.
So look forward to some feedback. I'll message you offline about that. So really appreciate it, Ville. Thanks guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. And yeah, let's this exciting times for the governance area. We're gonna have some voting going on. So
yeah.
All right. Take care.
See you.